Excellent.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. This is Tukan from LeadSift here. This is the second video in our Driving Content with Intent series, where we basically feature a SaaS company, take a look at their content marketing strategy, take a look at their event marketing strategy, and compare that with their competitors and what their ideal customer profile or the buyer personas are doing, and see how they stack against them. So today it's my pleasure and honor to have a good friend of mine, Kyle Racky, who is the CEO of Proposify. Today's analysis is on Proposify. So welcome, Kyle.
Hey, Toucan. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
No, this is great. This will be great. First of all, I wanted to do it live in the video. Is congratulations on winning the EOY Entrepreneur of the Year award. So
thank you very much. That happened last night.
Yeah, that must be a great feeling, right? Good validation of all the stuff that you're doing.
It felt good. I always like to say, like, no entrepreneurs ever get in this for the awards. That's usually low on the list of
100%.
But it feels good, every now and then.
Absolutely. And where you get to wear a suit and tie or a bow tie. So
that's right. A tux.
A tux. There you go.
Time in my life wore tux.
Did you know ahead of time that you guys are going to win, or it's a review?
We just knew we were finalists. We were nominated in 2 years ago for emerging entrepreneur at EY, and then this year was for technology, and in both cases we just did. You don't know until they announce it.
Amazing. Well, very well deserved. So before we jump into the analysis, Kyle, which is live because you have no idea what's going to happen, why don't you give a quick blurb about Proposify, Kyle? That'll be great.
Sure. So Proposify is a software as a service product that helps sales teams with their sales documents. So it helps them streamline the workflow, create better looking, more professional proposals, minimize friction with buyers, and sort of automate it all and keep it in Salesforce. So that's primarily what we do. We've got a team of about 80 people here in Halifax who build that and sell that on a daily basis. And so a lot of the, which I know you're going to get into, a lot of the content we create is generally for sales leaders and helping sales teams solve their problems, essentially.
Got it. No, that's great. So let's get in. So this is the input that we got from you, Kyle, and correct me if I'm wrong. The three inputs is you guys are creating topics on these high-level categories: sales strategy, sales process, sales operations, sales enablement, and proposals. Would that be sort of accurate, high-level topic?
This is accurate, yeah.
In terms of then content marketing, then Kyle, what kind of content are you guys creating? Like, what's the form?
The form, we experiment with a lot of different formats. We have a YouTube channel, we have a podcast, we have a blog. We're recently, in the last probably 3-ish months, we've been migrating a lot of our content to LinkedIn, which previously we didn't have much of a presence there. So we kind of there's a lot of different approaches happening at Proposify right now. Our marketing team usually is primarily building like visual social media content and blog, and I usually handle more of like the webinars and podcast. Sales reps are posting on LinkedIn. We're actually a little bit all over the place. We're trying to tighten that up and get it together a lot more.
Got it. And are you guys doing any kind of gated content on these topics, like ebooks and stuff like that?
Oh yes, yeah. We have a list. We have several lead magnets, ebooks and cheat sheets and that kind of thing that we gate, that we put behind a form, as well as webinars.
Got it. And in terms of your buyer persona, you guys are typically going, as you said, mid-market companies over 200 employees to 1,000, North America, UK, and Australia. And in terms of the buyers, you are going after obviously the senior sales and the marketing leaders within these organizations. And also you mentioned sales and revenue operations people.
Yes, that's right. What we've kind of discovered is that these three different groups buy for different reasons. So sales leaders typically want to do things like, reduce buyer friction, get more insights into where their proposals are at, and if they're going to close them. whereas marketing leaders are like, we just don't want our brand to get messed with, because every time reps send out Word documents or PowerPoint documents, everything's all over the place. People are doing different things. We want to make that consistent. And then revenue ops are like, we just want to keep data accurate, because reps are sending out deals and discounting, and then it doesn't get reflected properly in the CRM. And then we get audited by finance, and there's a lot of discrepancies. So they want to basically keep their data accurate and keep it all in Salesforce. 3 completely different buyers and different reasons for wanting to buy.
But the same product, or you don't have to customize it for any.
Exact same product.
That's awesome. And in terms of the industries that you go after, Kyle, are there certain industries that leverage Proposify? Or
yeah, we typically will. I think consulting is generally, one of our main industries. Now we've also have some really successful customers in the hospitality business and events and hotels, that kind of thing, and even a little bit in like construction sort of trades. Like one of our best customers is a landscaping company. So it's kind of spread out all over, but typically like, IT consulting or anything along those lines, HR, management, they like, these typically are our best customers. It's more like we have a couple customers who we're not a good fit for.
Got it. Cool. And the other thing we did was we looked at your competitors, and here are 5 that we sort of shortlisted: the PandaDoc, Quiller, DocuSign, RFP.io, and Loop.io. That we included 20 more competitors. We got it from, we did research on G2 Crowd and Capterra. There were a few other players that we included in the analysis. And what we did was, there's 2 pieces to it. First is we looked at your competitors, and we analyzed what kind of content are they putting out right now. Then we looked at your ICP, meaning the mid-market companies and the senior sales, marketing, and revenue operations people. What kind of content are they consuming, and how does that compare with the content strategy that you are putting out? So with that, let's take a quick look at some of the topics. So the biggest topic that a lot of your competitors are putting content out is around sales, just at a high level. Would you say that to be expected, given the space that you're in, the use cases being sales?
Absolutely, yeah.
One interesting thing that we found out was Salesforce specifically was a massively important topic within sales. Like, I would say more than 50% of content your competitors putting out has something to do with how this whole thing ties into Salesforce.
Yeah.
So that, what are your thoughts?
It's interesting, because as we've been discovering the mid-market and learning more about them, this has repeatedly kind of come up more, and we realize that there's probably a gap in our content where we don't talk about Salesforce a lot. Our marketing team doesn't even use Salesforce, so they don't know much about it. But especially operations, sales operations, their job is essentially Salesforce, and they're most of where they live and where they're thinking about is like, how do we generate better reports in Salesforce? How do we keep data clean? How do we essentially make our reps jobs easier, and it will enable them to sell more? And it's all Salesforce.
It is all Salesforce. So given the fact that this data is basically suggesting that your competitors are doubling down on this content, would you say this would be something that you can then pass it to your marketing team and say, well, our competitors are very much focusing on Salesforce, we probably should?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Then there were certain other topics. Proposal, RFPs were something that showed up. I know you mentioned something about RFP. What do you think about that? Like RFP being?
So it's not surprising when we look at Loop.io and I think who's the other one?
Quiller or RFP.io.
RFP.io and Loop.io are really RFP type of software.
Makes sense.
And we actually sometimes recommend to them, to a prospect, that they use them if they want RFPs, because we're not really best suited for that type of use case. And they've done the same thing. They say, oh, if you just need like really amazing looking proposals that are kind of templated, and the same, and they don't change a lot, you should use Proposify. So we actually
nice
competitors, but we're very, very closely related. So it would make sense that they would write a lot about RFPs.
Makes sense. I know you guys are creating content on sales enablement. So
Yes.
that was also a topic that was of interest from a lot of your competitors. We saw some content being put, quite a bit of content put about procurement. Is that a use case that you see?
Procurement usually tends to go hand in hand with RFPs. So there may be some of those competitors are, they're writing RFPs and they're also writing procurement, and they're all kind of, related. I think document management is very interesting. I know we're putting a lot more content out about that and sales enablement.
Nice. Yeah, document management was also another topic that your competitors putting out. I noticed you guys are not creating content on that. So great. So there are a couple interesting things that I guess showed up from what you said, document management and Salesforce. Those are two topics that you are not specifically creating content on right now, but based on this might now.
Yeah, and onboarding too. I'm actually kind of surprised to see that there.
Onboarding, there was content on that, and there is something follow on that I'll talk about.
Yeah.
Cool. So now let's look at the ICP. So this is what your competitors are putting out. When we look at the ICP, what we mean is, okay, now I know this is a competitive landscape. What are the actual buyers? What the kind of content or topics that they are interested in, they're consuming? Obviously, I don't think they wake up and they're like, oh, let me read up on proposal management software or e-signatures. So what are they looking at? So there were a few interesting things. Sales enablement was a massive topic for most of your buyers in the mid-market. So that's a good thing. You guys are creating a ton of content on it. Customer success actually was a topic that a lot of the senior sales and marketing leaders were talking about. CFOs, there was CFO as a subtopic. I don't know. And it makes sense. Proposals, how finance people can do analysis on the proposal and things like that. So CFOs were a topic that the senior sales and marketing leaders were consuming content on.
Wow. Surprising.
HubSpot inbound was another thing. Obviously, a lot of them. Digital transformation. That was a topic a lot of the mid-market sales leaders were talking about.
Yeah, we've, that term digital transformation, we've used that internally a few times talking about things, and it's really, it's helpful to see that here, because I think we, that's definitely an avenue we haven't really explored much on the content side.
Nice. So based on then, Kyle, based on the topics that we analyzed, actually there's a follow-on. So this is something that you'd be really interested in. So we took the top topics your competitors on ICP is creating content or consuming, and then we went a level deeper. We looked at the most popular subtopics within them. So in sales, which is obviously a pretty broad area, things that are of interest, that was the most common theme, was actually doing closed-won analysis. Your competitors were putting a lot of content on that. Because sales leaders do, even revenue ops do look at closed-won analysis a lot. Contract renewal, sales velocity, these were some topics that were being talked on within the sales. Salesforce, which was one of the most common things amongst your competitors, the discussions were around how whatever software they are creating takes care of the manual data entry. Sales order from Salesforce, that's a big thing. Like you just live within that. That was a subtopic within Salesforce. And then sales automation. Does this align with what you guys are doing, what Proposify does?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. Because that Salesforce is increasingly becoming one of our key value propositions, and especially for selling to sales ops. They have to know right at the beginning, like this all works in Salesforce. So, and reducing manual data entry is a big thing that we say to them as well, because the fields from your CRM have to essentially map to your proposal and be accurate, and reduce the amount of like typing in client names and that kind of thing.
Got it. And then there were talks about, as you mentioned, there's RFP, which is not really what you guys focus on. There's a lot of talk about AI automation in RFP. Proposal, RFP efficiency, response management. That was also another theme under proposals. And then in sales enablement, there was a lot of discussion around how VP of sales takes care of the sales enablement piece. So that was a very interesting subtopic that I found. There was a webinar or a couple of webinars that was done by some of your competitors around that.
Oh, cool. Interesting.
So now, I guess, given the topics that you're currently creating content on, Kyle, and what we are surfacing from your ICP and your buyers and your competitors, what did any of this surprise you?
It does actually. Yeah. It's, there's a lot of sales content. Actually, there's a way this really helps, which is that I think it gives me, and I'm definitely going to share this with the team, a window into how much deeper we can go on these topics. Because I think there's a temptation with sales content to go very, very broad and very high level on, generate leads, work your deals, where we can really shine and kind of become thought leaders and experts in this area is like everything kind of mid to end of sales process.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting to go deep on that.
Cool. So in terms of an action item, let's say I gave you this data right now. Obviously, after the call, I'll share all this research. How do you see you guys actioning this?
I would share it with the marketing team and the sales team. I could see us the next brainstorm session when we're coming up with new topics using this and kind of creating some content categories around like, okay, contract renewal. We've never really dug into that. What are some problems? What are people talking about? What are the issues? And then what kind of content can we create that solves problems around that? So I see it as kind of a good helping guide the roadmap of content.
Awesome. No, that's great. So the next part of the analysis was around events. Are events a big part of your strategy, marketing strategy?
They are, yeah, and they're becoming increasingly so. We've done a lot of events this year, from everything from AAISP, the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals, to HubSpot Inbound, because if we're trying to get in front of these three different audiences, they go to very different events.
Yeah,
right? Marketing is one thing, and sales another, right?
Yeah. So the next part of it, what we are going to reveal is show you what are the events your competitors are actually sponsoring the most. And then also look at which events your buyers are actually going to the most. So let's take a look at it. Keep in mind with regards to event and even the content, it's very temporal, meaning the topics change over every quarter. Events would probably change every month because there are new events happening. So this analysis, I should have mentioned it earlier, was done from the data was collected between August 1st to September 15th. So that's the window, all of this data from.
Sure.
So from an event perspective, these were the top events that your competitors were going to. SaaS Talk was actually a big event.
That went just to that last year. But we didn't have we didn't sponsor it or have any kind of.
You just walked like as an attendee.
Yeah.
Salesforce World Tour, which happens quite a bit. ChannelCon. That's an interesting, again. And then there is HubSpot Inbound, Sales 3.0, Growth Hacker Conference. Gainsight Pulse was an event. ILTA.
Our customer success team went there. But we didn't sponsor it or try to use it to acquire customers.
Some of your competitors were there, actually.
Wow.
The other one was ILTA, the Legal Technology Association. A couple of your competitors were sponsoring that. Law firms probably using proposals and things like that. Midwest Dreaming. This was an interesting one. Do you know of this one? Midwest Dreaming?
Heard of them.
It sounds like a pop song or something like that. This is actually an event that happens that Salesforce community puts out. Anyone that uses Salesforce like a lot of the practitioners would attend this.
Wow.
Pretty big event, which actually goes back to saying that your competitors are definitely doubling down on the Salesforce and the entire ecosystem. Yeah. And that's why they're sponsoring the Salesforce World Tours, going to or sponsoring Midwest Streaming and things like that.
Interesting.
Any of this stand out to you? I know you mentioned Inbound, which you guys went to, and
Inbound was the one this year that we did the most. We were the most. We went in as a sponsor, and we really used it as an acquisition channel, and results are remaining to be seen on that. I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of leads from that conference. I'm actually surprised that a lot of these I haven't heard of. Midwest Dreaming, ILTA, Salesforce 3.0, ChannelCon, Salesforce World Tour. I've never heard of. And then other ones, actually, I'm a little bit surprised that they're very kind of SaaS events, like SaaS Stock, Growth Hacker to a certain degree, are tend to be, or at least startup focused.
Yeah.
Very surprising.
Yeah, it is. So Salesforce World Tour is actually a big event. Dreamforce is their main thing.
Yeah.
And then Salesforce World Tour, they do it in like cities like New York, Chicago, Boston. Like they basically go over the entire world. They do one in Toronto too. So these are local focus. So if you have a big market in Chicago, for example, or Atlanta, you would sponsor that.
Interesting.
So that's an interesting. ChannelCon and ILTA are more non-SaaS type businesses. A lot of customers that are in channel partnership, they would be going there.
That's awesome.
Now, looking at your competitors' events, not competitors, ICP event, that was very interesting. So HubSpot Inbound was a common theme that was there. So that actually is a good validation that both your competitors are going and your customers are going. Unbound CTA was actually an event that happened in Vancouver.
Interesting.
Dreamforce, a lot of your ICP is actually going to Dreamforce. I don't know if are you guys attending Dreamforce?
We didn't do it this year, and we kind of pulled out, and we should go next year.
Yeah. A lot of your buyers are going. It's pretty expensive, so that's
a bit of there's some Dreamforce is kind of that fire hose, right? Of like that hundreds of thousands of people, and it's like the challenge there is how do you strategically set up the meetings or set up the outside events or parties to make sure you get the most value out of it.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing. This is an interesting use case. I'll just quickly, I don't know if you know this. One of the big signals we track for our customers is events. So a lot of our clients, their marketing, what they do is a month prior to the event, they would start tracking that event within LeadSift, because you do not get the attendee list from these customers. So they find out, okay, company X is going to Dreamforce, and these are the 2 people who will be attending. So they run a very targeted email nurture campaign to book meetings ahead of time.
Very interesting.
So that might be an idea.
That's an awesome idea.
And the other thing, customer success. A lot of your ICP is interested in customer success. Again, their interests are broad, but customer success is a big interest. Contact center world was another one. A lot of salespeople are going. Sales leaders were going there.
Never heard of them.
Yeah. Gartner CSO and Sales Leader Conference, Chief Sales Officer. There's a conference. A lot of your ICP was attending that. So there might be some interesting overlaps there. So now let me ask you the same question that I did with your content. If once I give this data to you, do you think this could be something that your event marketing team or whoever is responsible, would you pay closer attention to these events and see if it is possible to sponsor or attend them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would share it with sales and marketing, and especially as we plan 2020 and we want to start, because some of these are maybe earlier in the year or later in the year, but just really kind of come up with this is something we had to do anyway. So I'm really excited to have this data, because we were trying to get a meeting on calendar for us to sit down and actually start planning our strategy for events in 2020.
Nice. Yeah. And if, as I said, this was done between August and September. Prior to planning, well, shoot me an email. We'll do an analysis for that period of time. So it's closer to 2020. More than happy to do that. So that's all I had, Kyle. What are your thoughts looking at this data? Was this useful for you?
This is really useful, because the only other way that we kind of, figure out what kind of content to create is just trying to understand our customers and their challenges. But it's kind of hard to scrape the web, or at least is for us. I didn't know how to do it. Is like figure out where are the ICP spending their time, what are they interested in, where's their attention, and then what are the competitors doing. And we either want to make sure we're up against them and we're competing for that same attention, or maybe there's some gaps where ICP is there and there's no competition. So we can go in and sort of own that from
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I would do is, your competition was not there at the Gartner CSO Summit or the contact center world. That's my opportunity. I would want to go and get in front of those guys. So
totally
awesome, man. Well, that's it. Thank you so
I feel
much.
like I should pay you for this.
Well, you being here and creating this content and agreeing to do this is worth it for that's payment for us. That's content that we created that I guess other of our prospects will use. But
Don't
I think
tell any of my competitors about this episode and
no.
let them watch it.
Anyways, thank you so much, Kyle. I'm going to stop recording and we'll talk to you soon. Just one
Thank
second.
you.